What's going on, people? Welcome back to my personal channel. It is yet another live. We've got Chelsea v Rennes tomorrow in the Champions League. We're going to discuss that a little bit sooner. But you know what we had to do, because it's been a while since we've spent a live chatting to people. So we had to get Matisse on, the newest member of Chelsea YouTube. Bro, how are you finding a new channel?
It's all good. I mean, thank you for welcoming me to the community. It's my first time, obviously, doing a guesting appearance, actually, since I've started the channel a couple of days ago. And yeah, it's going great. Look, I love YouTube. I've always wanted to come over here. Obviously, there's technical difficulties in the first few videos, things that need to improve, but I'm here for the journey. And yeah, I just got so many ideas. So I'm buzzing. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the first change you found since comparing it to like making Twitter videos?
I mean, first of all, obviously, I've got way more time on my hands, so I don't have to squeeze it into 2 minutes, 20 seconds like I had to for Twitter, which is brilliant because I've always got way more to say. Obviously, I've done a lot of podcasts and stuff, so I've got way more to say than the time is given usually. So it's great to be able to have the flexibility, obviously bring in some creative little transitions and whatnot. And obviously, audio-wise, I'm used to just speaking on my phone, but now I've got all these like mics and light boxes and cameras, and it's all mad. So yeah, we're getting used to it, but man, I'm loving it. And obviously soon I'll kickstart the StreamYard and then we'll do a reverse. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's good to see Damian as well. It's been a while.
100%. Yeah, he's been joining up with Lawrence, and yeah, I love that boy. He's doing good things in the community as well.
All right, well, guys, as usual, I do want to say, if you guys haven't done so, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Same thing to Matisse. We're going to leave a link down in the description below as well. I'm going to drop that in a little bit too. Guys, I do want to say, drop your questions down below. Any questions you guys want to talk about, we're going to discuss anything and all things Chelsea. I think a good topic that we should start on is, I think, the topic that everyone's been talking about the last 24 hours. I was going back in for Declan Rice in January. Now, the formation's been looking really good over the last few games. So we did speak about this a little bit before we went live. Is this the finished article in terms of our starting lineup, or do you still think there's other changes that still need to be made?
I mean, I never want to say it's the finished article, because during our time with Frank Lampard, he's changed the formation, changed the lineup and the personnel so many times that I feel like I'd be stupid to just assume, yeah, this is our new formation. We've beaten Burnley, who, by the way, haven't won a game this season. We had a fantastic performance, don't get me wrong. But to assume after one game or two games against Coastal FC in the Champions League that now suddenly we have had a swing in momentum and we're 100% always going to go with this lineup, I'm not ready to say that. Things can change. Of course, there can be injuries like we've seen with Christian Pulisic. Never know what's going to happen in terms of that. And the thing is, even though I do love the way that we played last game, I love the team that we put out, and I really want to see it stuck with. That's my main thing. I don't want to see rotated, too much rotation. I want to see a very settled team now, because you know the teams that win the league or do very well, they have a settled team. There's chemistry and long-lasting relationships built in that side. But we are only a couple injuries away, say a goalkeeper or a midfielder, from having to change things up again. So I can't say that I'm expecting it to be, you know, mainstay team, but yes, I would like to see it continued, and we played brilliantly in last game, so I want to see that carried on.
Yeah, guys, again, smash the like button. Ian, I see you on there. If you want a link to jump on, give me a shout in the comments. We'll get you on as well. Speaking on the last two games, I think with the Burnley game as well, we'll probably end up seeing the same lineup as the Sheffield United game, only because I feel like they're going to end up playing a similar brand of football, and they both had terrible starts to the season as well. I do think I know the answer going to this, but I just want to use it for the sake of discussion. Against better teams or teams that would actually press us, do you want to see that same midfield? Because I've been saying it and I've been getting roasted on this for Twitter. I don't think N'Golo Kante in the lone DM works against pressing sides. I agree with you in the case where we have to change the lineup based on the team that we play. I think against lower half of the teams that play with a low block or just sit deep with 10 or 11 men behind the ball, it makes more sense because Kante is going to have more space and time with the ball. A team with a decent press, I think on the ball, he just gets dispossessed or turns over the ball way too easily.
I mean, I agree with you. And the thing is, Kante can improve in this role. He can be trained up, and that's what's going to have to happen. And we've seen players in their career change position, drop deeper back. You look at Paul Scholes, even, you know, the likes of Steven Gerrard as well. He changed position quite often. He actually started as a right back. So we've seen midfielders in their career change position, maybe become a bit more measured and controlled about the way they play. Which is obviously not the Kante we're used to. He is a box. For me, he's still a box-to-box midfielder who is best when using his mobility to get around, make interceptions, close things down. And he's not the person in a pivot that sits. In a pivot, he's had Drinkwater, he's had Nemanja Matic. He's never been the sitter. So this is all new. So what I can say to people is, I'm still adjusting to it. I'm still not convinced. I'm still waiting for him to see him against different types of opposition, different levels of opposition. We haven't seen him in the Champions League game against Bayern Munich or whatnot to be making the assumptions and the conclusions that he's 100% the man for this role. What I can say is that nobody's used to this position for N'Golo Kante. He won a World Cup. He won Premier League titles playing in pivots in a two. He's never been the lone DM. Yeah, maybe he's had lone DM responsibilities, but even for France, Matuidi would track back. He played a very defensive role in that team. Pogba would drop back for build-up as well. He's never been the lone guy. Now, post-lockdown last season, he played lone DM and Mason Mount and Barkley played ahead. And I didn't really like it because Mason Mount and Barkley didn't drop back to really get on the ball and help him start build-up, which I think is also a little worry there as well. Like you said, pressing, if he has to start build-up on his own, he's not used to starting build-up play. But what I am a bit more confident this season is that Ziyech and Havertz, those two players have really upgraded this team to a new level that even I wasn't expecting. And I think they'll drop in and really help him with build-up. So as long as one of those two drop in alongside, and Mason Mount played brilliant as well the other day, and he looks like he's moving on leaps and bounds. If they can drop in alongside and help him, not only defensively, because no one can cover everything, and obviously he's getting older, but also in build-up, then I'm a lot more confident. But look, we have not seen N'Golo Kante play this role before, and we haven't seen it for a long season where he's been successful for the whole season. So all I can say is you can't get onto people who are not convinced yet, who are still waiting to see how it goes, because like I said, we're used to a different type of N'Golo Kante, so it's going to take time for everyone to adjust to it.
To be honest, I'm actually so glad I've got you on, because you've actually just stapled my belief a little bit more. The whole of last time, just sitting there, like, am I right or am I just ripping on Kante for no reason? Here's the thing as well: we've got a very winnable run of games as well, which makes me think that we're going to stick with this three in midfield for at least the next two games. I don't see us changing it for Sheffield United. Maybe change for Newcastle, but I still wouldn't be surprised if we kept the same three in midfield. Tottenham, though, after the international break, that's the big game for me. So are we going to end up playing Kante in midfield, or do we play Georginios? Because I think the best is that we rotate between the pair of them, but depending on the game that we play. Neither's the complete answer for me. Both of them have their pros and their cons as a lone DM, but I think Georginios is just a little bit better under pressure, and I think he's got a better outball under pressure, whereas Kante, if you press him, I think he's got a bad pass him and he's a little bit more shakier.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a team, if we were going to get pressed, I would rely on Georginios more, because I know that that's his game. He actually wants to be pressed because he preferred to play in those little triangles. That's why he loves to make his short passes when he did under Sarri, and he doesn't want to play up against a low block, really. He actually likes to be pressed, because once you press Georginios, he pops it off to someone else, moves, takes it, and then suddenly there's space in behind and we can counter. And that's kind of the whole, almost false attraction of, press us so we can ping around you and then knock it in behind and counter. The only issue with Georginios that I wouldn't be too comfortable playing him either in a lone DM spot is that we're not playing the shunter. The shuttle bus, I call it. So we had, under Sarri, we had Kante playing right centre mid, and that helped Georginios defensively, because Georginios will need help defensively. I wouldn't play him lone DM with two attacking midfielders or even eights. Even though they work hard and they track back, Havertz and Mason Mount, I wouldn't call them defensive-minded players, and I wouldn't trust them to help a player like Georginios at the base. I still feel like we'd be very vulnerable on transition, because obviously Georginios is not the quickest. So I wouldn't like him at lone DM either, without a Kante next to him at right centre mid like he had under Sarri, or an Allen like he had at Napoli, who's now at Everton having a good time there. He's always had someone like a shutter bus, like a box to box midfielder to really help him. So we'd have to then we'd be changing a lot. So this is why you see, when you asked me the first question, do I think we're going to continue to keep playing this 11 all season? Of course not. We get a suspension or an injury in a critical position, and we're going to have to change the dynamic, because Georginios a lone DM, he's not a lone DM, Regista, so it's a little bit of a different thing. It's a very difficult situation with those two, Havertz and Mason Mount. If you're keeping them as the eights, I would keep Kante despite my concerns, just because I know defensively he will be able to handle that job. Obviously on the ball, he is good on the ball, but on the ball in that zone. This is what people think. When you brought this up earlier, people think you're disrespecting Kante on the ball. Kante on the ball is a good player. He can switch play. He can dribble. Low sense of gravity. I remember a Super Cup game against Liverpool. He had a man-of-the-match performance. He was nutmegging people and doing disgraceful things to opposition.
Hell, Liverpool this season.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable performance. We're not talking about that. What we're concerned about is Kante in that role, in that zone, because you have a 10 pressing you. You have, do you know what I mean? Your vision of the pitch in itself is different. You're almost facing the defenders at times, and it's a different area that he's not used to patrolling. You know,
Plus the responsibilities with that.
Exactly. This is a position on the pitch that we saw Ndidi got a turnover against Mason Mount when we played them against Leicester at the start of last season and we scored our first goal. This is a position that Busquets and Pirlo and those type of players operate in. So you have to understand that people have different visions for this position compared to what we're seeing. So that's why long term, unless Kante does improve on that side of the game, I would like a more rounded DM, like a John Obi Mikel of old, or someone like that, Makelele, someone who's been and done that role a little bit more. But we'll see how Kante progresses. At the moment, I would keep him there, but not without minor concerns for sure.
That was the key point for me, because I feel like if we're really trying to push for Declan Rice in January, which apparently sources saying that it does look like we're trying to make this move, then if anything, that just staples my belief that this only works for a certain phase. If anything, I think that serious loan DM is the one missing piece of our puzzle that we've missed in this squad. And I get why we haven't got it, because throughout the summer we've been focusing on the Kai Havertz transfer, we've been focusing on Ben Chilwell, trying to get defensive reinforcements, a goalkeeper as well. But if we're still trying to push for Declan Rice, even with the price tag that we know he's going to mount for himself, especially being at West Ham and everything like that, if anything, that just again staples that we ain't. N'Golo Kante isn't the main answer. Georginios isn't the main answer. We just need to use the right one for the right position at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that I've been consistent on is that this midfield, there's no perfect solution. Just like last season's centre-back combinations, no perfect solution. We all had our favourites. We all chose who our favourite centre-back was or who our favourite midfield pairing. But there's no question that there's no perfect solution. If there was, we wouldn't be changing formation. We wouldn't be changing between a pivot and a lone DM. We wouldn't be trying all these different combinations. I personally, when we was doing a pivot, I wanted to see Georginios and Kovacic because I saw they had a chemistry and an understanding. At the start of last season, they played very well together despite us still conceding goals. Then, you know, Lord and behold, my option gets tried against Coastal FC in midweek, and they absolutely put in a disaster class, and I look like an idiot. But the reason why I don't care too much about my pride over this issue is because there's no solution. I don't even think Frank knows exactly what he wants to see. So it's very understandable that the fan base has loads of different opinions and people are almost changing week to week because so is Frank. So if Frank and his coaching staff are not going to be consistent on what formation we're playing, what team, what ideology, then how can you expect the fans to be? So it's a topic that literally anybody in the comment section, whatever idea and whatever your opinion is, I'll probably understand it and agree with it to some extent because we have so many options. This is why personally, and I'll get your take on this, Lewis, I cannot wait for Billy Gilmour to come back and Ethan.
Yes.
Talk about it, bro.
Yes, bro. I'm not going to start on a negative point, but I do want to say I think Jorginho's Chelsea career has low-key been saved by Billy Gilmour's injury. Because we all remember the first two games when he came into the team, the Liverpool game, the Everton game, and he was just phenomenal. And he looked like he had everything that you'd want in Georginio, except he was a little bit quicker, a little bit more aggressive, and defensively was just a little bit better as well. I do think it also depends on bringing him back from injury, because I understand that he's going to have that little assimilation process back into the team. But I do think when he comes back, we're really going to need him in the squad, especially next. I would love to see him next to N'Golo Kante and a Kai Havertz or a Mason Mount, because I think when we're talking about playing teams with a strong press against us, if Jorginho's kind of the answer but still has a bit more flaws, I feel like Billy Gilmour at his best is more of the answer with a bit less of those flaws, if you get me.
No, I completely agree. I mean, look, I love Georginio. Everybody that knows me knows that, but I'm never shying away from his weaknesses. You know, that's why I said just earlier in the show, I wouldn't play him lone DM without that shunter. I wouldn't expose him like that because on transition, with a bit of pace, like you saw against Sheffield United last season away from home, you expose Georginio, you don't play him in a compact system, shit can go left. So I wouldn't. But Billy Gilmour is a little bit more mobile. Obviously, technically, he's very good. Well, he makes those split passes. He's probably a little bit more direct. who likes to play those short passes that I spoke about. You know, Gilmour will push them through. Nuts Fabinho. That was a lovely bit of skill. You know, when Roy Keane is talking you up in the studio at Sky Sports, Roy Keane is talking you up. There's no doubt that you're a baller. So I'm loving him, and I'm loving, you know, hopefully the return. Like you said, we have to ease it because we have to be patient. Because coming back from a long injury, we don't want it to become an ongoing thing as well. And obviously, Ethan Ampadu's doing really well at Sheffield United, a player that I rate very highly. If you know me, you know that. And it's a guy that I've always been speaking about. He can play centre back, but he can also play DM. And I think he's, again, we're speaking about more. They're not better than Kante and Georginios. I wouldn't even say they're better right now. That would be maybe a bit disrespectful, but they're a bit more complete, a little bit more well-rounded. If I look at Ethan Ampadu on the ball and defensively, he's got a little bit more of a complete, you know, if you're going for a circle, you're a little bit more complete there. Same with Billy Gilmour, a little bit more complete. And I think one thing you can guarantee with Frank Lampard in the midfields that he played growing up, not growing up, but those midfields that he played in his Chelsea career, you know, your Essiens, your Makalele, Balaks, those are well-rounded midfielders. They're not specialists. Georginios is specialist.
Essien played everywhere. Exactly.
You know, Georginios is more of a specialist. So you know that Lampard long-term isn't really looking for a Georginio type player because he doesn't know how to really use Georginio. He's not Sarri. Do you see what I'm saying? Looking for his 4-3-3, his Lampard, Balak, Makalele, his Mikel, Essien, Lampard. He's looking for that. Why would you not coach what you already know? So even though I'm a big Georginio fan, I know long-term he's not going to be here or he's not part of the plan because Lampard simply doesn't know what to do with him. You know what I mean? So why would you manage something that you're not used to? You manage what you're... An inexperienced manager should be managing on what they've learned previously as a player, whether that's formations, you know, team selections that you've obviously Jose Mourinho. He's going to take all that and he's going to bring it. And he played in a 4-3-3 most of the time. So I expect him to use that for sure.
Okay, well, we're going to go on to a decent point now because I like what you said about whether Georginios will be staying or going. End of the season, we're gonna have Ethan Ampadu, Kante, Havertz, Georginios, Gilmour, Mason Mount, Kovacic, and Barkley as our midfielders. Someone's going to be leaving. Now, if we're going to put two down, let's ignore Ross Barkley because I think me and you can both agree he's probably going to be one of those that will be leaving. I'd be surprised if Villa don't take him, and I'd be surprised if we don't try to sell him to Villa the way he's been banging it the last few weeks. But who do you think would end up leaving as well in that list?
It's a tough one because I know Georginios would be one of them. They did try to get rid of him this summer, but obviously there was no buyers. And I feel like Frank in the end was like, you know what? We can, like, he's vice captain. He's obviously got a lot of assets to him, leadership-wise. The way that he can change a game, came on against Arsenal, came on against Leicester, I believe, as well last season, and completely changed the whole dynamic of the game, allowed us to control possession. So it's a good weapon to have. I feel like he would be one of them. And then I think it really does depend, but I feel like this is a make or break season for Loftus-Cheek. I love the guy.
I've just got the question in here now as well.
Yeah, it really pains me to see Loftus-Cheek even at Fulham. Like I said this before, no disrespect. I said this in my own video, but he should be at Fulham. He should be balling for us. He was brilliant under Sarri.
Stupid friendly.
Yeah, that one friendly in America completely changed the trajectory of his career. Like, he was balling for us. He was our probably second most influential player after Hazard in that late season under Sarri. Him, HudsonOdoi linking up. Those three were looking beautiful. And then injuries happened to the two youngsters. Hazard obviously goes to Madrid and everything's gone to shit, really. So I'm hoping that he can come back. But if he doesn't have a good season at Fulham, personally, and this is from probably one of his biggest fans, personally, I would even consider getting rid of him because at that point, what are you, 25 years old? You're still struggling to get consistent minutes. He was on the bench for Fulham the other day. He cannot be on the bench. He has to have a breakout season for Fulham. No.
I say he was on the bench and they won 2-0.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was
and
jarring.
Tino Anjorin is coming through. You know Chelsea are going to spend, so he has to have a good season, or he'll also, I think, might be out the door.
Yeah, it's so painful talking about Loftus-Cheek because we've had so many setbacks with him. I feel like this loan deal is just taking him back 3 years because it's the same thing we did with the Crystal Palace loan deal about 2-3 years ago. I don't think he's finished yet. It doesn't look great, him being dropped and Fulham getting a 2-0 win, their best performance out of the season out of it. But I do think It's still very early days. He could still have a very big role in that Fulham side in later stages of the season. There is that sort of role and that sort of thing with players where sometimes they don't play well in the start, but you bring them in certain periods, they come and save you points. Hopefully that's the same case with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Another player that we could talk about who may potentially be staying or going depending on his game time. Last season's player of the season, Mateo Kovacic. Now, if we bring in Declan Rice, it's not to say bring in Rice, get rid of Kovacic. He ain't the same player, completely different. But he's struggled getting game time in periods this season. I feel like when he's played this season as well, except maybe the Sevilla match, maybe the Liverpool match, I think he struggled a lot of the games this season to have an impact. And if the other three midfielders start carrying on a little bit, and that means he gets less game time because they're playing in the same position that he does, would he end up having to leave as well? Because he's not left the Real Madrid bench to just play on the Chelsea bench.
Yeah, I think the only difference I'd say with Mateo Kovacic is not only is he, I feel like he's such a special and unique player who obviously doesn't fit really directly into a 4-3-3 because he's not a natural 8. We spoke about our SCNs, our Ballaps, our Lampards. He's not a natural 8. He's not a natural sitting DM either. He's someone that doesn't really hold. He's more the guy who will roam a bit, and he's very press resistant and he likes to dribble his way out of trouble in times, and he's very good at that. He's very unique. What I would say with Kovacic, and I don't personally know his long-term future, but I would love for him to be around. Player of the year last year for a reason, very consistent player, and for me, he's someone that we're going to need at some point, because you see if that, even in times in games, obviously he's not going to be a constant starter, and I did expect his minutes to drop off a little bit. I said this to Alex previously on another podcast as well. I do expect his minutes to drop because we know Mason Mount is very heavily in Lampard's plans, and if he does play him as the 8, Mason Mount's got a lot of potential. I've always said that, if you play him in his correct position. But Kovacic is such a unique player that when you've got that lone DM and say things are not looking so bright, or you need to close a game and you need to keep possession a bit more, or you're being heavily pressed, no better player than Mateo Kovacic to bring on and maybe regain some possession. Maybe get yourself through that press if you're struggling build-up. Maybe get him to slot in alongside and turn it into a pivot if you've got a lone DM who's struggling that game and getting, run ragged and we've got a lot of pressure on us. So there's times where you can use Kovacic. Obviously, he's not the best in the final third, but in that defensive midfield, midfield zone, that first phase of play, he's a really talented footballer, man. And, I think personally, I wouldn't want to see him and Georginios go. I prefer, if I'm picking out of the two, I would keep Kovacic over Georginios, just because I feel like there's a lot more ways Frank will be able to use him long term. Georginios is more of a specialist player, but Kovacic I would love to keep. He's got experience. We can't underestimate how important that is. He's obviously won the Champions League with Real Madrid. He's been about, and he's a technically, I love technically complete players. Reece James, Kovacic, these are very good technical players. I love that because I want us to be able to play with the football. So even though he doesn't get you goals, do you know what I mean? In that first phase, even coming off the bench, you can definitely get use out of him, 100%.
Interesting point though. How do you feel about him when he gets to the final third? Because I know we said progressive the ball, he's excellent. And when it comes to a team with a strong press, he's probably the best player you could have in the midfield at the time. He's completely impressible. One talking point that people use against him, though, is that in the final third, he doesn't really do much. And that he's more of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. How much do you agree or disagree with that?
I can see their point, but again, I would also say he's one of the best dribblers and most press-resistant players I've seen. I don't see all away when he's under pressure. Like, it's freakish. So I'd say he's not even really a jack of all trades, because you obviously know his shooting and his final third play is not the best. So I wouldn't say he's one of those guys.
Yes, bro, what are you saying?
What's going on?
You gassed off your first top 6 win in years.
Hey, Lewis, listen, yeah. If our manager had the same amount of money that your manager's got, I bet you we'll be Premier League champions. I bet you.
Not even that, bro. Champions League.
But why is your record signing on the bench? That's what I want to know.
Huh?
Why is your record signing on the bench?
Ooh!
William!
That's all I want to know, man.
What happened on the Sunday? Pardon
What?
us. We don't need
Listen. I wouldn't be talking, if you can't even beat us in the FA Cup. Listen, domestic FA Cup champions of the world, bro.
Ooh.
Are you mad, cuz?
When you guys got Champions League,
Domestic FA Cup champions of the world. I love that.
Listen, we've been watching football before you guys were made up. Plastic, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
I swear we had more European trophies than you before Roman joined.
You're cussing us with the top 14 trophy. Now you enjoy it. Look, you're basking in it. You love it.
You love it.
You're drenched in it, fam.
Only because the standards are dropped for you, man, and now it's a top 8.
There we go.
Hey, Lewis, one last thing. Come on, the Arsenal. Come on, the Arsenal.
I love you, man. Thanks for jumping on. I big up Cheeky Sport as well.
What a takeover. I love those guys, honestly. Yeah,
I big up Joel.
I just finished filming with those guys, isn't it? So I love them, man. They're hilarious.
Aye, standards the standard, bro. But what were you saying? You're talking about Kovacic, right?
Yeah. So back onto Kovacic. Look, I just feel like I wouldn't even call him a jack of all trades because I don't personally feel like his shooting and final third play is good enough to say a jack of all trades. Because he's not really a complete midfielder. But in terms of a complete player, technically he's very good with the first phase. So I would keep him. And obviously not all midfielders have to get goals and assists. I keep saying this. Like I know we've as Chelsea fans have maybe started to put more pressure on them because we're used to Lampards and Ballacks. But if you look at Liverpool, how many goals and assists do their midfielders get? Your Wijnaldums, your Caters, your Hendersons, your Fabinhos, they don't really get too much. So if you rely on your forward players to do the goals and assists, which we now can, obviously last season we had a very underwhelming attack. Only really Pulisic, Tammy chipped in with some great output, but Willian was a bit disappointing as per usual. Pedro. Now we've got Ziyech, Havertz. You know, Pulisic is going to chip in as well with some great return if he can stay fit. You got Tammy, who's always a goal getter. You've got Werner, Giroud's always. We got loads of attackers. So why put the pressure on our midfielders to get goals and assists? There's no need. Get them through the first phase, get it into the attackers as quickly as you can, and let them do the magic as we saw against Burnley.
Okay, you know what? I like hearing that. That's a very good way of explaining it. I've been holding on this question for a while because I was asked for a few questions as well. If you guys haven't done so, smash a couple questions and a like if you want to be a bit generous. Let's talk about Antonio Rudiger and his future with Chelsea because first game back, the Krasnodar game, solid performance. I will say the defense had a surprising amount of work to do in that match, but I do think they handled themselves pretty well. Right now, Rudiger or Tomori, because not gonna lie, I do want to see Tomori over Rudiger, but we haven't seen Tomori get a lot of game time past the Barnsley game. And even with the injuries, we ended up starting Rudiger over Tomori for the Champions League match. So in the long term, who do you see getting the more game time? I think Rudiger might be coming back a bit more of experience and everything, but with Rudiger, it is definitely last chance saloon for him because if he has another season full of flops, that's going to be it for him.
I wouldn't even say it's his last chance. If I'm being completely honest, the club obviously clearly tried to get rid of Rudiger during the summer. I don't think that's any secret to anyone. They couldn't get the deal done. And now it's just about keeping players happy. You've got yourself a player in Rudiger that's been here for years. Obviously, personally, I don't rate him particularly highly from what I've seen. There's a lot of individual mistakes there, a lot of losing of personal deals when it comes to set pieces, lack of organisation and communication and leadership, hence why we signed Thiago Silva. So personally, I'm not even giving him a last chance. I just think he's here. We've got 5 centre-backs. Keep the senior ones happy. Rudiger's obviously got great chemistry with Timo, with Kai, hence the whole propaganda and hence the all announcement video. Tony's bringing them in, Agent Tony. You can't let him be unhappy. So give him a bit of game time and then you try and offload him again in the future. It's no secret that the club are trying to get rid of him. I don't expect that to change. You didn't sign Sarr. You didn't sign Xavier from Barcelona. I can't say his last name. You didn't sign... you didn't sign all of these young centre-backs, plus the links with Declan Rice, who apparently they can change and convert into a centre-back potentially. Ethan Ampadu, you've got Zuma, who's playing very well. We don't know the situation with Christensen. Tomori's there as well. You've got Guehi at Swansea as well, having a good time in the championship.
He's had a great season.
Yeah, the club rate him very highly. You don't have all of these young centre-backs hanging around to say Rudiger's got another chance. He doesn't have another chance. He's not going to be a starting centre-back for this club that wins a Champions League or Premier League. So you dust it, you move on. I don't have time for this. You know what I mean? You know how I am, Lewis. I'm very straight up with it.
Ruthless, but that's the Chelsea way, isn't it?
Yeah, people that have been like players that have been like almost not doing the business for us at the elite level. Remember, we're spoiled. We're used to Alex, Cahill, Terry, Ivanovic. I don't business, man. I don't have time for all these chances, third chances. If they haven't been doing the business, then off you go, and that's it. I've got a batch of players that they don't get another chance. It's game over. We've got a big squad, a very big squad over the top squad. It's almost unhealthy competition, and there's certain players in there, they don't have another chance, in my opinion. So I would
Hold that batch of players that you just thought. I want to say one thing. Someone's saying Christensen has to go. Honestly, except for that Liverpool mistake with the red card, I don't even think he's had a bad season. I think he's had a very solid run of games for us. Hasn't really gotten over Zuma and Silva, but that is a very good defensive too. But I don't think Christensen's had a bad season either. I think he's been pretty solid. But those batch of players, who else would you want to get rid of then?
Rudiger. Obviously, Kepa in goal. I think he needs to go back to Spain, back to his native country, and just get his confidence back. Whether that's a loan or a sell, I don't mind, but he's got to go. So Rudiger, Kepa, Emerson and Alonso, I would get rid of. Who else? Obviously, Barkley when he returns. I just think he's better at a smaller club with less pressure and a little bit more of a freer role. I personally don't think he's good enough for this club either. Then you've got, this is with regret, but Georginios also, just because I don't ever think Frank Lampard will get the best out of him, and I think he's too much of a specialist player for our midfield long term, even though right now I wouldn't get rid of him. Obviously, we can't anyway, but right now you wouldn't get rid of him because it's just purely because of we don't know what we're doing long term with the system. But yeah, Georginios would be one of those that I would let go and let him go and play his best football in Italy again. Forward, I think we've cleared all of the forwards really. Obviously, we got rid of the aging wingers from last season. Batshuayi still on the books. He's got to go. Bakayoko, Drinkwater. These guys are not even.
Oh yeah, we forgot the 17-18 Deadwood.
I don't know if we've got rid of.
Zappa Costa's still here.
Yeah, Zappa Costa. Is Victor Moses still contracted with us as well? That's another one.
I think he's another loan deal.
Yeah, so he's also all of those guys from the Kante poor transfer window. That goes without saying. Those guys have got to go. But yeah, just clear all of the scraps, all of the dead wood, and I say that with the utmost respect. But they gotta go. They gotta go.
Utmost respect, but it's the Chelsea way, and we can't hang on to these players any longer. The only reason why we've hung on to them for this year is because no one can really afford anybody at our prices. The thing with that transfer ban and us holding that money for last year was that we basically made our own fees this season. No one had money.
I'd add Christensen onto that as well. I just feel like I know you said he's having a decent season. For me, again, with Christensen, not only has he got so much value on the continental, like if you go to I still think top European clubs would pay a good amount of money for him. I personally
will probably still take him.
Yeah, I just personally don't see him as our starting centre back anymore. Like he's been there for a long time. He has never really been able to get a consistent run going, whether that's game time or wherever it is. But when I look at Christensen, I just don't know what I'm going to get. Am I going to get a good performance? Am I going to get a lapse in concentration? Because everybody speaks about his passing and his positional awareness, but I still see lapses in that. Like, if those are going to be your strengths, make those your strengths. Like, Zuma is not the complete defender, but for me, I can rely on him more. I can trust him more. I know he's going to win his aerial battles. I know his strengths, and I know he's going to be strong at those, whether it's the last-ditch tackles on the high line. Obviously, physically, he's, a specimen. He's got a lot of pace, aerially very complete. And I feel like you put him next to a world-class centre-back, like you did with Terry, like you did with Silva now this season, and you get a good, strong partnership from Zuma. Whereas Christensen, I always worry, no matter who he's paired with, he always looks like he's going to give me issues. People speak about, like you said, the passing. But then you look at Thiago Silva and look at the level that's gone up with the passing. If your passing is going to be your strength, it's got to be your damn strength. Like, your passing's got to be incredible. And I don't see Christensen making these crazy passes every game where I'm like, wow, we need this in the team. Thiago Silva does it. David Luiz did it. Christensen, I wouldn't say, is on the level. And then when you talk about positional awareness, loads of times last season, that West Ham game where we got absolutely clapped in East London, positionally, you see Christensen sometimes sleeping in the box and letting runners go off of him.
Southampton game as well.
Yeah.
There was one game I didn't bring up.
Yeah, Sheffield United away as well. So for me personally, I would get rid of Christensen. I rate the player. He was brilliant for Mönchengladbach in Germany. I think he'll and this is the thing. When me or you, when we say a player, I would like them to go, don't think I won't expect them to do wonders for another club. I just don't think they're right for our club. If Christensen goes to Spain and he has an absolute masterclass for a top club and he does brilliantly consistently, I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not going to be like, oh, we should have kept Christensen. He's just found a new home, and that's where he's settled, and it's better. It doesn't mean every time you get rid of a player and they do better elsewhere, oh, we should have kept them. They could have been doing this for us. No, different environment, different location, different team, different manager, different situation. So if he goes and does well, which I expect him to, same with Barkley. I'm not surprised he's doing well at Aston Villa. It's a different club, though. It's got a freer role, smaller.
He likes playing as one of the main players in the side. It don't work with us.
You know what I mean? It's him and Grealish. There's no pressure. It's Aston Villa. The expectations are lower. It's calm. Some players belong at other clubs, and some players below a lower level. So, yeah, Christensen, I would get rid of as well.
One other player I want to talk about before we talk about the Rennes game a little bit. Callum HudsonOdoi. Like, I also do agree that Frank Lampard does need to give him more minutes, but same way, I think HudsonOdoi really needs to take more of the opportunities that he gets. I feel like there's been too many games this season where I've been looking. It's like, finally we played HudsonOdoi, and then by the end of it, I'm like, I wanted to see a bit more from him. You know, I'll use the Krasnodar game as an example. Yeah, he got a goal, huge goalkeeping error, massive goalkeeping error, and him on the ball. Other than that, didn't really look that impressive. I thought his decision making was a bit all over the place. I thought he just preferred to release it to Chilwell as an easy ball too much, and just didn't really give me too much. And the Barnsley game, as another example, the same thing for me in that match. We wanted to see him get game time. He got game time in a game which should have been easy for him to try and make an impression on, and he just didn't.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. Look, I've always been trumping for HudsonOdoi to get more minutes, especially when we was playing Mason Mount out wide. I was like, why don't we just play a winger out wide? Obviously, it was for defensive balance and whatnot. But still, I just wanted to see HudsonOdoi get more airtime. Now, we know he's a talented player, hence why Bayern Munich are interested. There's no surprise that, look, if you're watching HudsonOdoi, you know he's got ability, he's got talent there, just needs unlocking. Now, for me, I'm kind of surprised with, if he wasn't going to get the game time at the start of the season when we had the injuries, then my God, it's going to be way more difficult for him now with, Ziyech. Obviously, Pulisic is injured now, so maybe that helps his case. If he can't get a run together this season, he's very young. He's still 19, I believe. If he can't build up some momentum this season and show some form and a little bit more consistency in his game, then maybe next summer you loan him out. You bring in an older, maybe Ben Rama. Obviously, he went to West Ham, but that's just an example of someone, the type of player you could bring in who's more of a squad player. Let HudsonOdoi go out on loan for a full season where he gets a consistent run at game time, because he is very much a confidence player. And when you're doing your 1v1s as a winger, you need to be confident. So if you're not confident because you're in and out of the side and you're not really favoured, and obviously, I don't know if there's stuff behind the scenes, because obviously he's, people say he's training well, then they say he's not training well, and obviously you had all the rumours with Bayern Munich and whatnot. So I don't really know what's going on with that. But if it doesn't work this season, then he's very young. It's not a problem to loan him out and bring him back. But hopefully he can just pick up his performances when he gets the opportunity. It's a very competitive squad now. So like you said, when he gets his chances, he has to take them. And he did very well when he came on against West Brom. He got a goal, really good goal with Kai. Then some other games he's not so good. So he's a youngster. You expect inconsistencies. And then when you're not getting regular game time, you expect even more inconsistencies. So he's just got to train hard and keep at it. Every time he gets on the pitch, he's got to show it. And hopefully he can break in. Like I said, we got Pulisic injured now for I don't know how many weeks. Hopefully it's minor. But that spot is open if he can take it.
Yeah, I did want to talk about this Pulisic injury as well, because it's becoming a lot with him. Like, I'm not using it as a stick to beat him with or to say, is he finished? Nowhere near that. He's one of our best players when he's fully fit. But same way, he's getting so many injuries now. And what was it? This one was a slip in training, and he was taken off as a precaution. Now he's out for about 2-3 weeks. I mean, we're lucky it's the international break. May or may not have come at the right time for us. Yeah. But same way, this is his 4th or 5th injury since joining us. It's becoming a key factor. And we know it's got partly to do with the way that he plays, because he's a very explosive sort of player. Yeah. But do you think this is something that's going to keep coming around? Because the more I keep coming around, the more I keep getting shades of Ruben.
Yeah, man. All I can do is pray because I absolutely love this player. Like you said, he's like you saw last season after lockdown. He basically carried this team from an attacking standpoint. Shades of Eden Hazard type influence. He was unbelievable. And I just hope and pray that his injuries are just maybe, you know, he's still young. Hopefully his body's just growing and he's going to get to the point where he can manage this better and the club can manage this better and he doesn't keep picking up these niggling injuries. I am worried. I cannot lie. You know, if you look at his injury history throughout his career so far, it has been a little bit sketchy. I just have to hope.
I've just seen this.
Yeah, I just have to hope and pray that he does find some sort of consistency fitness wise, because if he does, this is such a talented player that we have on our hands. Get him fully fit and at it. We saw what he did against Liverpool at Anfield. I know we lost the game, but we scored 3 goals. From an attacking standpoint, we did well. It was our defence that was acting up, and he was unbelievable. Nutmegging 3-4 players, sliding it on a plate for Tammy. You know, for me, Pulisic is probably, you know, even still, not with Chelsea fans, but, you know, Premier League wise, underrated as hell. Like, the final ball, the pass, the vision, the timing of the pass, the weight of the pass. These are things that people don't really give credit enough to him for. So yeah, I'm just praying, man. Honestly, I don't want to talk about Ruben Loftus-Cheek and compare, because Loftus-Cheek is a little bit further along. He's obviously 25. So yeah, I just have to hope.
All right, cool. I'll drop one more question before we wrap up this stream. Chelsea versus Rennes tomorrow, the Petr Cech derby. Now, we're not going to talk about it too much because, let's be real, we know with the injury record and stuff, they've got Rugani out, they've got Camavinga out. The game should really be winnable for Chelsea. Let's just talk about the lineup. Who would you like to see start for the Rennes match?
If I'm honest, I would go with the same team that started against Burnley. I'm going through the team in my head now. I wouldn't make any changes. I think Reece James had a great game. I know Azpilicueta is very reliable in these big games in the Champions League. And listen, I will always call upon Azpilicueta immediately. If any right back or left back gets injured, he's the first person I'm calling over any other fullback that we have on our books. But because Reece James had such a good game against Burnley and he is the long-term future, I would keep him there. The rest of the defence, I'm a big fan of not changing. I don't want to see rotation in centre-backs or any of that palaver. The midfield, it worked. Do you know what I mean? Despite the minor concerns we have over Kante at DM, why would you change it? It worked. You stick with it, and you hope that he continues to train. And if he does get pressed, you see development in his game on that side of things. And then the attack scored 3 goals, so I ain't complaining on that front. Ziyech was unbelievable, made a massive difference in this side. You know, Pulisic obviously out, so Werner played left wing. There's a case to be made that Werner, obviously his first touch, not only when he receives the ball needs to improve, but also at left wing we don't get the best out of him. But Tammy had a really good game. You know, he set up a really good opportunity there for Ziyech, which he took very well. And look, my thing is, I wouldn't change if it's not broken. Do you know what I mean? We don't have many wingers available. I would like, obviously, to start HudsonOdoi, but he's not demanding a start with his form. His form is very up and down. Some games you get a good game, some games it's a little bit like, which is understandable. Like I said, he's young, but I would go with Werner. Just try and keep working with Werner on his positioning. Do we want him right on the touchline? Maybe not. Second striker is probably Werner's best position. So it might be a little bit not symmetrical, but the team could kind of work in a way where Ziyech and Havertz are a lot deeper and they help in the creating and they help with obviously helping Kante and Mount with the build. And they're a little bit deeper, creative wingers. And then you push Timo a little bit higher and he becomes your second striker with Tammy, which is probably his best position as a second striker. Running off Tammy's build-up play. Like I said, I would keep him up there. He seems confident. You've got Giroud on the bench. You've got a great option there. Very underrated player again. HudsonOdoi on the bench. Explosive. If we're winning the game or even need to chase the game, either way, you bring on some pace. And yeah, our defense looks good. So I'll keep the same team. Okay,
well, now final question. With that in mind then, any changes for Sheffield United or would you keep the same lineup for both games?
It's hard to say because obviously it depends on what happens against Rennes. We could pick up injuries or anything like that. And obviously it depends fitness-wise. If I can see in the last 10, 20 minutes against Rennes that there's some players that look burned out, you know, obviously Timo was looking like he was going to get a rest before the injury to Pulisic, which obviously switched up the starting lineup. Maybe he was looking tired in the previous game. So if I see in the last 10 minutes in Rennes that some players are huffing and puffing, then yeah, then I probably make changes because it's back to back. You know what I mean? COVID season, we got games every single, you know, couple of days. So the lineup really just depends on the previous one for me. I would make judgments on the Rennes game and then you know what to do for Sheffield United. Obviously, Sheffield United play a very specific way as well. 3 at the back sometimes, well, most of the time. Obviously, Ampadu, I don't know if he can play against us. So yeah, it really all just does depend on what happens against Rennes.
All right. Well, Matisse, I want to thank you for jumping on as usual. It's been great chatting to you. Everyone, if you guys haven't done so already, Matisse is finally on YouTube. If you guys didn't know already, channel name is literally down here, Matt MAH. It's very easy for you guys to remember. Anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, literally, I've only started that channel a couple of days ago, I think on Sunday. So if you type it in the search engine and it doesn't come up, apologies. We're just not that rated highly by YouTube yet. They don't rate us that much to put us in.
Emphasis on yet.
Yet we plan to make a start.
Give it a month, bruv. Watch.
But hopefully, if there's a link anywhere in the description or whatever, you can click it there, or go to my socials, Twitter. My link's in the bio. It's pinned. Literally, if you want to find the YouTube channel, you'll find it. If you're lazy, then you might not find it. So it's up to you. Do you know what I mean? But the content's coming out daily. We're doing a madness. Obviously, we just shot with these boys here that you saw interrupted the stream. So we're doing a lot of things. And yeah, much love. I appreciate it. Coming on here to chat with Lewis as per usual. And yeah, man, I'm loving YouTube. I love it.
Yeah, guys, if you give me about 1 minute, I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description below. I realized I should have done that earlier, but I was rushing. I'd just woken up, so allow me, please, Matisse. But I'm dropping it in the description now. So if you guys haven't done so already, smash a like, smash a subscribe button, and also smash a like and subscribe on this channel if you want to be a bit generous as well, please. I'd massively appreciate that. But again, Matisse, thanks for jumping on, bro. Massively appreciated. Check out Matisse's channel, like and subscribe to Carefree Lewis G.